Hello, lovely people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and this is Evolved Chit. It's my little corner of the world where I like to talk about spirituality, metaphysical stuff, universal laws, and psychology. So I'm actually just lying here in bed and stalling to get up. And I've been thinking about the term twin flames a lot lately and what it means for me, and basically how being introduced to this term, or the person or the two people who I associate with this term in my life anyway, uh, and how incredibly life-changing this has been, and yet at the same time could be toxic and even a little devastating at times. So when I first started on this path, I had happened upon a couple of coaches, twin flames coaches, who are still pretty popular today. And you see quite a bit out here on YouTube. And they both had advised in their video content to, pretty much like to detox from this term and from the whole thing associated with twin flames. And when we're first triggered on this path, and the longing and the want to be with the person that we label as our twin flame can be really powerful. And when we hear this idea of, forget about them or forget about this term, it's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like this person, or in my case, again, two people, really kind of, like, I can't even imagine that. I can't imagine, this whole notion of this. So now that I'm kind of on the other side of this, I can see why coaches advise detoxing from this term, detoxing from the energy or from the physical form of the person who is your twin flame. So and again, I was speaking from personal experiences. When I was, first thrown into this, spin cycle here, and trying to figure this out, I really thought I could, figure it out on my own. And that the information I could take in is, just some guidance, and I could come up with my own formula. And in some ways I have, and how to balance energy, and then in other ways, I really needed that guidance that I was hearing from other content providers. So let's, fast forward to today. And when I look back on this, I can see, one, why it's recommended to do that. Many of us are hugely triggered on this journey. And that energy, that obsessive energy, that addicted energy that we have, and just wanting what we want and when we want it, and perhaps the interaction, the energy with the twin flame, it's what's stirring up all of that stuff within us. And depending on what is healed or unhealed within us, our psyche, our trauma, our emotional wounds and scars, depending on what we have resolved or haven't, that can dictate how the dynamic happens in between ourselves and the person who is our twin flame. And again, it's an energetic dynamic. It's like the psychology of the connection, if you will. So when I tried this, I tried it consciously and unconsciously, and seeing if I could, kind of trick my soul and trick the energy into making the connection happen. And the reality is, I couldn't. And if I did, it was short-lived. So I tried this with my fake twin flame, and at first, I was doing this, and I could see, when I look back on this now, I could see how the law of assumption or law of attraction, how that came into play. And the funny thing is, now that I have absolutely 100,000,000% balanced the energy with this person that I call my fake twin flame, like I have like no, um, like no emotion or energy towards that situation, whereas once before I did. And now, like, I've completely just kind of managed that with my fake twin flame. So I have to use this as a marker of, what we hear or what we learn about this on this journey with the energy. So if that person was my twin flame, and now that I have, absolutely balanced my energy when it comes to that connection, I have not seen that person in a while. And it's funny because that person, I live pretty close to them. So I would think that I would run into them much more than I do, but I don't. So to me, that was such a great experience to show me how my energy was all over the place, or how I was looking outside of myself or projecting onto him. So I can say that when I was trying to trick that dynamic, it didn't matter, because of the connection between us. So when I finally ditched the whole twin flames label and this and that with him, it it actually happened very quickly. I could see that it was just some trauma that had come up, and it was like, an unhealthy connection, and an unhealthy connection on, my part. So this is an example of why, ditching that twin flames label and the things that we read, like the stages and phases and, separation, all that content and labels and stuff, it doesn't help us. So, my guidance would be the same of that of, what I heard from some of the coaches here on YouTube, and that is drop that label. And what you think is supposed to happen, the phases, the stages, like, you have to let it go. Then the energy dynamic with the person who I believe is my twin, that is the exact opposite. So what I found is, when I was in, early on in the connection with him, I was trying to trick the energy. I had learned from my fake twin flame experience, but not quite everything, I guess you could say. I still thought I could trick the energy. I thought I could trick my soul. And I couldn't. Now, with the person who I believe is my twin, they show up consistently. So even though it may be like he's in, he's out, based on, my energy, it's consistent, unlike my fake twin. So, so for example, early on, it was, things were great. And then, upon reflection, I look back on it, I could see how my energy and his energy clashed, and created the separation. So, then, I would be bad, or, what's going on? We have this great connection. And then I would realize, I'm like, oh my God, what have you been reading about for the last couple of years? And when I realized it, because at first when I met him, like for the first few months, I didn't think anything about twin flames, which is kind of funny because I'm like, what did I just go through for like the last 2 years? And here's this person, and I guess I just didn't want to think about it because I was kind of tired of it. And so I went back to some of my notes and looking at things, and I'm like, oh wow, like this, well, wait a second, is this what this is about? And then before I could go down the rabbit hole there, I was like, hold on, like, don't let this get out of control. Like, don't lose yourself in this like you did with this other person. So when I felt inclined to kind of go down that path, I would have to like pull myself back. And sometimes it was successful, and sometimes it wasn't. And it would literally cause like the separation, the running, or whatever, terms we hear quite a bit. So when I would, at first I was just like, well, what's up with this? And then I'm like, wait a second, this is balancing the energy. So rather than, looking at it like someone's not showing up, or where is he, or this or that, it was like, no, why am I putting any of this on him? This is like on me. So As soon as I would balance that out, a week later, you know, guess who would show back up? So, in some ways, when I was going down this path of self-discovery with my twin flame early on, I was starting to look at a lot of psychological content, the holistic psychologist, the personal development school, the crappy childhood fairy. They're all some of my favorite YouTube channels here, and they have such great content on how our psyche informs our reality, and what can we learn and leverage from psychology that can help us in all of our relationships. But also, I could really see how when I took the attachment style quiz from the personal development school, I could see how my attachment style interacted with, well, pretty much, many people in my life. I could reflect on this, but especially my twin. So looking at how I perceived my attachment style information versus his, I could see that this was, a what I would label as anxious attachment, mine, and his dismissive avoidant attachment. And that does create a runner chaser dynamic. So then it got me thinking, like, wow, well, maybe there is nothing spiritual about this connection. Maybe it is just the psychology at play here. And in a way, when I looked at it like that, it let me off the hook. I was like, oh, this is just our wiring. This is how we work. So, I'm not saying that the spiritual things that we have experienced or experience aren't real or true. I absolutely believe that. There are just way too many synchronicities for psychology to write that off, which I have tried. I wanted psychology to write this off. I'm like, I'm just nuts. It's just my trauma. I've had, I had a bad relationship or whatever, like I tried to come up with some kind of excuse to not, to not get stuck there again, or to explain it away. So, while there's this psychology behind it, because we are people, I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. Like, I'm a human being, he's a human being. There is some psychology there because of how we operate and we're programmed and wired. So that is very valid and hugely beneficial to know and understand your attachment styles. I highly recommend checking out the Personal Development School's free attachment style quiz. I'm sure there are others out there. This one's free and it's really quick and easy to do and actually quite comprehensive. And I believe that the Personal Development School offers some like a free trial to some of the content that they have on their site. And I would highly recommend it if it's something you're interested in, or if you have it within your budget to subscribe to that monthly. I did it for a few months because when I first found all of this a while back, because I wanted to just learn more about it, and I really connected with the content there. So for a few months I was doing these exercises, downloaded some ebooks and things that were incredibly helpful for me. So I definitely recommend that you check that out, because, even though this may be a spiritual connection or the connection of the soul, it's happening to two human beings. So there is psychology that's involved in that. And for me, somebody who was kind of stuck and it took a little while to, get my wheels moving, that information was very helpful for me. So again, it's important to take a look at how you're operating at all levels, because if we're too caught up in the spiritual aspect of this, or overemphasizing that, we're not grounded. We're not grounded in reality, which is an important part of this, because we may be, spiritual beings having a human experience, but we're still having a human experience, and we need to be somewhat grounded in our reality. So this is why when I put the twin flames labels to the side, and all the the milestones and timelines and whatever else, and I started looking at other aspects of how I was operating, I really grew to appreciate what the energy and the connection was stirring up for me to explore, and how and how some past beliefs and just embedded, unconscious or subconscious behaviors and thought patterns were keeping me stuck, and unhealthy behaviors. So this is why I, recommend to put the label aside, the twin flames label aside. And because if we're getting too caught up in this label, then we're continuing to put that dynamic on a pedestal. And that's the opposite of what this dynamic or this energetic connection is all about. And if we're lucky, we see it for what it's for, and how it's mirroring us and showing to us these things about ourselves that we may want to, deepen into some self-discovery there, or some trauma that needs to be addressed or healed. So that's the truly spiritual aspect of it, is the return to wholeness. It's allowing us to see as individuals where we may have been kind of disconnected from ourselves, where we may have been overgiving or overextending ourselves, or beating ourselves up, or victimizing ourselves, whatever that may mean for you. I mean, it's very different for me from other people I talk to and have talked to. It's very different from them, but always triggered by some sort of trauma, or the connection triggers the trauma and the wound, and it allows you to deepen into that path of self-discovery. So it's not necessarily all like magic and spirituality and all the woo-woo stuff. It really is grounded in a lot of psychology and who we are as a human being, and how our subconscious mind has been operating the show. So this is what it's creating, this awareness that we are the soul, and the soul is the one that's always observing. So how do we tap more so into that energy and get into our soul space, so we're operating from the highest vibration possible? And in my opinion, that's what this connection is all about. And if we're lucky, we also, and the connection's good with the human person of the twin, then if it's decided, if you'd like to, then you can have a connection with this person. Of course, if they're into having the connection as well. So this is why it's important to kind of put that term aside. So have some gratitude that it triggered you and is showing you some things about yourself that maybe have been long overdue to address. And what are those things? And to take that responsibility for taking care of yourself, and knowing that you are courageous enough, you are brave enough, and you are strong enough to take care of yourself, and that anyone and anything that may come along is just a blessing. So I hope this was valuable and important information that you needed to hear right now, because even though I heard it, I kind of heard it in different ways, and I heard it the way I needed to hear it at whatever part of my process I was in. But now that I can look back on my path and what led me to where I am at today, I wish I would have taken that advice a lot sooner and really understood the importance and value of it. However, that's just where I was in my wounded energy, and it was all a part of the process. So I can't feel bad about it or be mad about it. I can just be grateful that I know better now. So now that you have this information, you know a little bit better now than you did before starting this video. And that is, put that twin flames label aside and focus on what's happening within you. Check out that attachment style and learn more about how you're operating, and perhaps do a little more self-discovery as to why you may be operating in that way. So be sure to check out my website. I have a lot of free content out there, and 7-Day Mindset Reset ebook, which is 7 days of exercises to help you get clear on who you are and what you're here to experience in this life. And also, I'm offering coaching sessions now too. So go to the services page, and if you'd like to connect with me, I'm offering 30-minute and 60-minute sessions. So this is a reminder that you are loved, you are necessary, and you are really needed right now. So step into your power. And until next time, I'm sending you lots of love and good vibes for your journey. Bye.